Hello and a warm welcome to Eye on Gauteng. I'm Kukulethu Tsele. This is the Gauteng Legislature, an autonomous body established on the birth of democracy in 1994. Last year, the Gauteng Premier delivered the annual State of the Province address here, where he laid out the TMR strategy, focused on transformation, modernization and re-industrialization. Every alternate year, the legislature's first sitting is hosted amongst the people. This year the event took place in the township of Gauteng, in the southern corridor of the Gauteng city region.
I am happy to be in Gauteng in particular this morning, as we are going to be listening to the Premier delivering on the plans that himself and the executive are planning to deliver for the people of Gauteng. So for me that is relevant because government is elected to change the lives of our people, and it is true what the Premier is going to be saying, that the lives are going to change. Whatever we're going to be hearing as the provincial legislature, we are going to be monitoring as to how delivery is happening, so that we're also able to report back to our electorate in terms of those issues, because when as committees of the legislature or individuals, members or public representatives, when we go to our people, there are issues that are pertinent that they raise with us, and we take those issues to the executive, because the executive is the arm of government that is the one that changes the lives of our people. Our role as the Gauteng provincial legislature is to ensure that if those plans were delivered to us, we monitor as to how well they do that. So for me it's relevant.
Let's touch on the progress that has been made so far, maybe perhaps from 2014-15 and coming back to 2016. What kind of progress have you seen with regard to the expected deliverables made by the Premier, and how this is translated into the deliverables seen by the legislature?
We know that in some instances they promised that in some areas they were going to install water. Some areas electricity, in some areas is the expediting the delivery of housing in those communities, and we've seen that happening. It might be slow, but I'm sure the Premier is getting there and his cabinet. But we've seen a lot of progress in that regard. But we also know that there are still other sections of the community that still feel aggrieved, and we're just hoping that the Premier will close on those gaps as well.
Let's touch on that. The man of the moment is actually standing behind you, I understand, greeting some of the special delegates that have made their way here today. But what are you hoping to hear from the Premier today for the 2016 State of the Province address? The
issue that is being raised sharply as we go to or visit respective stakeholders in our province, one of the issues is unemployment, especially amongst young people. I know that in the past month, as we're opening the schools, there were a lot of young people that receive financial assistance towards paying for their fees at institutions of higher learning, and we know that others might have graduated, they're expecting to be employed, others are not skilled. We want to know what is a program that will ensure that those people get skilled, because with our young people today being the majority of the population, but at the same time, if the majority of the population is unemployed, we have a reason to worry as the public representatives. So I'm just hoping that the Premier will touch on how they are going to change the lives of young people, but also women as well. I can't ignore women because I'm a woman myself. I know the burden that many women are facing today, but also yesterday. I can't say only today as if yesterday there were no challenges. But at the same time, I'm also hoping that because in the country as a whole, not only in South Africa, but in the continent, but also internationally, the issue of economic downturn. We want to know what is it that we can do as Gauteng, because remember, Gauteng is the economic hub of Africa. So I'm just hoping that the Premier will also cover on those issues, but also in terms of housing, because there are many people that are still not having access to water and sanitation. We also want to know those issues, how the Premier is going to turn that.
Right, well, I pass in columns of roots. Oh, let the right in reason. All right, big hug.
The past 21 months in particular, the ANC-led Fifth Administration has been implementing a bold program of transformation, modernization, and re-industrialization, otherwise known as the TMR. In the State of the Province address that I am delivering, I'll give a full report back on the progress we are making and the challenges that we are facing in accelerating the implementation of our program.
Transformation, Modernization and Re-Industrialisation. The TMR strategy is Gauteng's bold plan to build an economically inclusive city region and reverse the injustices of the past. Plans to radically transform the economy include spatial reconfiguration, township economy revitalization, and investment in infrastructure.
Despite the tough global conditions and national situation, Gauteng has maintained its position as the economic powerhouse of South Africa, contributing 35% to the South African economy in 2015, compared to 33% in 1997. Honorable members, as a result of our interventions, Gauteng continues to be the leading destination for foreign direct investment into Africa. According to the recently released Ernst & Young 2016 Africa Attractiveness Survey, 30 billion rand of foreign direct investment projects have come into the Gauteng economy in 2015 and 2014, just since we took over as the fifth administration. 30 billion rands of foreign direct investment. Our economy has also consistently been growing above the national average at 4.2% between 2003 and 2013. Just in 2013 alone, our economy grew at the highest at the rate of 2.6%. However, honorable members, our growth has slowed down quite dramatically in 2015 as a result of a combination of national and global circumstances. With regards to employment, the Gauteng economy contributes 42% to national employment and has the highest labor absorption rate. This is according to Stats SA, Statistics South Africa. In 1996, there were only 2.5 million people employed in the Gauteng economy. And 20 years later, there are 5 million people employed in the Gauteng economy. This means that we have doubled the number of people employed in the Gauteng economy in 2 decades since the ANC became the governing party in this province. More interestingly, during the past 12 months of the fifth administration, 191,000 jobs have been added to the formal Gauteng economy, while in the informal sector, 150,000 new jobs have been created. Honorable members, these facts are contained in the September 2015 quarterly labor force survey. They don't come from me, they come from Statistics South Africa, honorable members.
After the discovery of gold in 1886, the region developed to become the single largest gold producer in the world, and the city of Johannesburg was founded. During the apartheid era, the province's cities were demarcated for whites only, excluding people of color from these economic hubs. Infrastructure investment is key in undoing these injustices and creating an integrated society.
It is important to also report that last year, most of our departments spent 99% of their infrastructure budgets. This is very commendable. It's a commendable achievement given the history of underspending on infrastructure in this province. We are also cracking the whip on the departments who are not paying service delivery providers on time. 10 out of 14 of our departments have achieved 90% compliance with the payment of service providers within 30 days. The digitization of invoicing has introduced new efficiencies in our governance system and is helping us to pay service providers on time. However, I remain deeply concerned that some of our departments, particularly big budget departments, still pay less than 70% of their invoices within 30 days. And those departments that are on my radar screen is education, health, human settlements, and infrastructure development.
Additionally, Gauteng faces major challenges arising from rapid urbanization. Between 2011 and 2016, 1 million people moved into the province with needs for jobs, housing, healthcare, education, and other life-supporting infrastructure.
These are tough economic times for government budgets across the world, and Gauteng is no exception. What we're trying to do is to grow the resources available for public investment by partnering with the private sector. As you would know, at the Infrastructure Investment Conference last year, we put out 6 projects to the marketplace. It was our first tranche in our project pipeline. I think what we're very excited about is that we now have National Treasury approval. So we are in the marketplace as we speak, looking for private sector partners. We hope to put out the next 6 projects at the follow-up Infrastructure Investment Conference in July, August this year. And we see this as a very important way of demonstrating that not only can we spend public sector money on infrastructure. You would have noted that the Premier indicated we spent in the previous financial year about 99% of our infrastructure budget, but also that we are committed to bringing in more private sector investors to grow the size of the budget available.
To close off with, I know you can't reveal too much of the details that will be discussed and revealed in your budget speech, but from what we've been observing, South Africa is in a very tight cycle. For the province of Gauteng, will these sentiments be echoed in a restrictive budget that will be allocated for this year?
Look, I think that all of us have a common duty to support the processes of fiscal consolidation that our minister will be announcing on Wednesday. We also have an important duty to make sure that we continue to provide excellent services to our people and that we continue to build infrastructure so that we can approach a better round of economic growth in our province and in the country as a whole. So I suppose the balancing act that I'm going to face in 2 weeks' time is how we continue to provide services, particularly for the poorest citizens of our province, how we keep our infrastructure spending on track, and how we save money in those areas where we don't really need to be spending government resources so that we can redirect them to our priority areas.
When we come back, we take a look at Gauteng's plans and progress. Welcome back to Eye on Gauteng. In his 2016 State of the Province address, Gauteng Premier David Makhura placed strong emphasis on township economies and empowering youth, women and the disabled.
As part of our drive for radical economic transformation, we have firmly placed the township economy revitalization on the national agenda. We have put a policy in place and set aside resources. We have made a clarion call to action, and township entrepreneurs have responded overwhelmingly. In the first full year of the implementation of the township economy revitalization strategy, I'm happy to report that the provincial government is currently spending 1.8 billion rands procuring goods and services from township entrepreneurs. In addition, honorable members, our municipalities are collectively spending 1.6 billion rands in supporting township enterprises. So we have already reached our target, our one-year target of 12%, which we had set for 2015-2016. And we are certainly gaining momentum and speed towards spending at least 30% of our procurement budget on township enterprises by 2019. Honorable members, you may not be aware that before the adoption of the township economy revitalization strategy, only 400 township enterprises were benefiting from our procurement spend. As of January this year, that number has tripled, and it is at 1,805 township enterprises that are now benefiting from our procurement spend. We have registered 5,321 SMMEs on our procurement database that are based in our townships. We want these enterprises to be sustainable, to grow employment and become involved not just in services, but also in manufacturing and export. We are pleased to report that the following township hubs and industrial parks are undergoing renovation as we reported and committed ourselves in the 2015 State of the Province Address. And what are those? Is Orlando, Saltsville, Gauteng, Hammanskraal, Mabopane, Alexandra, and Enedale. We will complete them at the end of March.
Two of the main projects focused on revitalizing township economies are Ndirisano and Tshepo 500,000. Ndirisano is a community outreach program inviting citizens to actively engage with the Gauteng provincial government on issues of service delivery.
During my inaugural State of the Province address delivered in Thokoza Township in June 2014, I made a commitment that we will change the way government works. Before the launch of Ndirisano program, Gauteng was engulfed by violent community protests on a daily basis. Evidently, there was a growing dissatisfaction with the way government works and the way government interacts with our people. Regardless of how well government was trying to deliver, it was loud and clear that there was a trust deficit between communities and government officials. Ndirisano is as much about improving the pace of service delivery as it is about breaking the mold of bureaucratic inertia in the state and in the way we work. It is about working together with communities in solving problems and making government officials and service providers more accountable to the people. Ndirisano has already received independent acknowledgement from the Municipal IQ Monitor, which reports that service delivery protests in Gauteng have decreased from 21% to 15% in the past 12 months. Honorable members, this is the most dramatic decline in the past decade and a half.
Tshepo 500,000 aims to provide skills training, entrepreneurship development, mentorship, and job placements for youth and unemployed graduates. Gauteng MEC for Economic Development, Environment, Agriculture and Rural Development, Lebogang Maile, highlights some of the initiatives his department will focus on in the coming year.
We have said in 2014 that we want to radically transform the economy, want to modernize it, and want to reindustrialize it. And as one way of radicalizing, modernizing, and reindustrializing, we want to make sure that we change the ownership patterns in the economy. And we know that most of our people are based in the townships in their huge numbers, and there are not enough economic activities. People must board taxis and go to suburbs and towns for economic. So it is in that context that we thought we need to put more emphasis. Not that there's not been economic activities taking place there, but we said we want to ensure that we enhance the productive capacity of our townships so that they can be able to contribute meaningfully in the mainstream economy, because we don't want to talk about township economy parallel to the mainstream or to the exclusion of mainstream. We want to ensure facilitation and linkages between township economy and mainstream economy. And that's why this should not just be seen as a government initiative or project. It's a project that involves private sector as well, and that is why Premier was saying we have met with a lot of big businesses, and they are very interested in working with us to make sure that we realize the objectives of the township economy. Ourselves, as government, we have set ourselves a target of 12% procurement spent from township-based entrepreneurs. We have already achieved that. We're most probably going to surpass it by end of March. And we said by 2019, we want to spend about 30%. That's the first thing we've said. But we have also said ourselves that we want to help these township-based entrepreneurs to register on our database, but to be compliant with various laws and regulations. That's why we had a program called Modernisation and Re-Industrialisation. And through that program, more than 5,000 people have been registered on our database. More than 10,000 of them have been reached, and we have been able to make a difference and help them to be linked with other agencies like SARS and all that. So there's a lot of, and on the 12th of March we'll be having the Township Entrepreneurship Awards, the first of its kind in this country, and it will be an opportunity to showcase real township entrepreneurs who are doing good work on their own without reliance on government, and that's what we want.
How exactly do you drive these companies to be sustainable, especially given the current economic climate that we're in? We're seeing low economic growth, the cost of capital is quite expensive. How do you maintain sustainability?
I think we emphasize the issues of entrepreneurship, that our people, when they decide to form companies, they must be clear what kind of companies they want to form. They must be clear what products they want to. They must do a proper market analysis. And that's why we are repositioning our Gauteng Enterprise Propeller, which is a funding agency, to focus on feasibility studies, to focus on business plans, to focus on mentoring and training these businesses on financial projections, on a whole range of much needed skills. The businesses can only be sustainable if the owners and the entrepreneurs at that level are taking their businesses serious, they understand the products that they're dealing with, they are committed, they are determined, and they also are aggressive and not fold their arms and complain when things. They must know that in business, nothing, like as in life, even in politics, nothing is easy.
Taking advantage of the opportunities available in Gauteng is a young entrepreneur named Ntabileng Digotsi. Together with others, she formed a cooperative bank, the YWBN, established for providing financial services to its 245 members in the construction sector.
We have been very lucky that from the beginning we were supported by the ekurhuleni Metropolitan Municipality. Would not be in existence if it was not of the public-private partnership, which is ekurhuleni Municipality and our private partners, your Kia Motors, your Total. So those companies that have, other people call it sponsorship for our event, but for us it's not just a sponsorship, it's a partnership. And I'll explain why we say it's a partnership, because we've gone beyond just an event. Like I said, we're not just a talk shop, we are an action-focused group. So what we have done is, over the years, is we decided, as a collective, what does BEE really mean? What does BEE mean to me as a black young professional woman in South Africa? And more than just tendering, because tendering has its own connotations, but there is more to it. So how can we unlock these opportunities as that? And as I'm talking to you now, as a network or as an investment company, we hold shares in a company called Namlock, which is a Namibian logistics company, distribution and warehousing, because we put our money together. Because as an entrepreneur, we can't be expecting government to be giving us money all the time. We have to be serious and show our own commitment. So we started putting money together and saying, let us show our commitment and they will meet us halfway. And here we are. We got a shout out today because we didn't wait for government to come to us. We started working and we knew that government will eventually catch on and then they will support us. So that was then. 5 years down the line, we're starting the very first women's cooperative bank in South Africa. We've just registered with National Treasury, CBDA, which is Cooperative Bank Development Agency, which is the first phase. And the second phase, it will be now with the Reserve Bank, where we'll now officially be a cooperative bank. And again, together with the partnership of ekurhuleni Municipality and our partners, we're able to put 2.5 million together as a group of women that said, okay, what do? We're looking for projects. Government is playing its part. Government is saying, we're putting 30% set aside. You heard today the Premier was talking about township revitalization. He spoke about set aside. He spoke about 12%. He spoke about 30%, where they're saying we're going to spend billions on township economies. But the problem is, you give me a tender or a purchase order, I don't have money to start, Premier. So what am I going to do? I run around selling this purchase order. I run around not even doing the job. But that's when we said, okay, a lot of people coming to us and saying, Ntabileng, I have this purchase order, I have the tender, I don't have money to start. What can I do? The commercial banks are not giving me a loan because I'm not credit worthy. I don't have collateral. I don't have. There's this red tape, that is meant to say, black child, stay away from business. It's not for you. But then we said, no, hang on. It is for us. But in order for us to work, we need to put our money first. Hence the cooperative bank, hence we are here. And then we came together as professionals, as business people, as entrepreneurs, and we're putting 550 Rand annual membership, 10,000 Rand per person share capital. We save 1,000 Rand every month for a period of 5 years. You look amazed. But no, we've been saving. You see, we call it stokvels. Stokvels is something that a black person understands. Our great-great-parents have been saving for the longest time. And with that, then we say, we will support each other. You have a tender, you have a purchase order, come to your own bank. A black person can own a bank. You and I can own a bank. I'm a bank owner.
Well, that's where we leave it for this edition of Eye on Gauteng. Be sure to send us your feedback and comments using the account name at CNBC Africa, #Eye on Gauteng. From myself, Pukulethu Tutsele, and the team, it's goodbye for now.